Hello, everyone, and welcome to our LinkedIn live session on the exciting and transformative topic of from job-based to skills first, the evolution of talent management. My name is Olivier Lander. I'm the CEO of Global Talent Hub, and I'm really thrilled that you're all here to come and join us today as we're delving into this topic, which obviously is looking at how talent management landscape is shifting towards a skill-based and a skill-centered approach. In today's rapidly changing world, organizations face the challenge of keeping pace with evolving technologies and market demands. This evolution is necessitating a shift in the traditional job-based hiring and management to a focus on unique skills and capabilities of each individual and what they can bring to the table. Today, I'm joined by an expert panel who will look at it from an HR perspective, but also from a technology perspective. And I'd like you all to briefly introduce yourselves. So maybe I start with you, Audrey, and then we'll go around to the introduction. So Audrey, over to you.
Thank you, Olivier. Good afternoon. So my name is Audrey Clibert. I'm the VP of Workforce Transformation at Global Talent Hub and Alixio Group. So I'm in charge of all subjects related to skills, strategic workforce planning, talent management, and talent strategy. So I'm supporting companies in the setting up and the deployment of talent management approaches, including talent marketplaces and other digital solutions.
Fantastic. Thank you, Audrey. Giacomo.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Giacomo Marchiori, CEO and founder of Talenter. Talenter, it's a skill-based talent management platform. So basically, we do support companies in mapping skills, leveraging our AI and machine learning technologies to then support the personalized development paths and career plans of each employee within companies.
Fantastic. Welcome, Giacomo, and nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Dominic.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here today. Name is Dominic Baumann. I'm heading Alixio Consulting in Switzerland. We're an HR consultancy based in Zurich and Geneva. We support companies through challenging transformations, always with a focus on people and talents. We support companies to empower, develop, and retain talents, and obviously skills play a very important role in that context.
Awesome. No, that's fantastic. Thank you, Dominic. Also to our viewers, just to say that please write your questions in the comments, and we hope to get to them by the end of the session. And if we don't, then obviously what we will do is reply on the comments section on the LinkedIn afterwards as well. So if you missed something or you want to write something, feel free to do so also afterwards. So let's start away. Let's go with the first question that we have. So what are the benefits and challenges of transitioning from job-based to skill-based talent management? And with that particular topic, Dominic, can I hand over to you to start and kick us off?
Yeah, thank you, Ollie. And well, I think to make this discussion maybe a bit controversial and interesting, I would actually like to challenge the notion of a transition. Because I believe that in some shape or form, we've always been looking for skills. Whenever we were hiring people, developing people, staffing internal projects, etc. But we were doing it indirectly. We were making assumptions based on job titles, on degrees, on tenures. And the shift we're seeing is really making those skills explicit today, visible, usable. And so in that sense, I think it's less of a revolution. It's more making our lives easier. And I was reflecting, why do we always talk about this big transition then? And I think one reason is, if we come to challenges and benefits, one of the main challenges, of course, is how do we get started as a company? And I think we will talk about that throughout the session today as well. Another challenge we're seeing in our daily work is the validation of skills. Is it based on self-declaration? How do we make sure that what we know as an organization about the skills of our employees and colleagues is actually valid? How do we make sure that the decisions we take, the conclusions we make are valid, are solid? And I think there are more, but these to me are the two main challenges we're seeing in our daily work with customers. why should you still do it? If you look at the benefits, I think they are also there manifold. Just like to mention maybe three. First of all, transparency, to make skills transparent. You're not the job title, but you are what you can actually do in an organization is really fundamentally changing the game, so to say. Of course, you can do better matching decisions as an organization, whether it's for internal mobility, project staffing. In traditional organizations, you would sit together, you would say, we have this project, who could be the right fit for that role? If you can do that based on facts and based on a full assessment of all your colleagues and employees, studies show that the quality is better. And last but not least, to have an aggregated view on the skills you have in an organization. That's simply impossible if you don't systematically manage the skills you have in an organization. These just a few thoughts to get the discussion going based on our daily work.
No, thank you, Dominic. Thanks. There's quite a few pointers in there. Maybe I just head across to Giacomo just to get his viewpoint and see where he sees it. You wanted to challenge the notion of transitioning, so it'd be good to get your viewpoint on that as well. Now.
Yeah, sure. No, thank you, Oli, for for involving me in the discussion, because we basically see this kind of of transition every day with our customers. And we try to make it as smooth as possible with the support of our technology. But of course, there is always a matter of a bit of change management behind this. So I agree with with the colleague to say that we all started from skills, even if we didn't know that, because somehow in the hiring process and in identifying what are the key activities that everybody is doing within the company, we are implying the fact that we know what are the skills needed for that role. But in the reality, the problem it's more, and the transition, in my opinion, it's more on how we manage and how we handle the skills, within the company. So that's the real transition, let me say. And I think the big change nowadays, it's literally that the fact of mapping skills and maintaining a skill taxonomy over time has been a huge pain for most of the companies. I would say almost 98% of the companies we talk to every day are still doing it in the old way, and that's a pain nowadays, mainly because if you look at the latest report from the World Economic Forum, we see that 39% of the skills will change in the next 5 years. So if you match this data point together with the fact that we already are suffering from a talent shortage, in some specific areas, then the difficult to try to find the right person for the right role becomes even more challenging. And even the fact of keeping up with the right skills becomes a huge challenge for companies. That's why doing it in the old way through a manual skill mapping processes. Typical huge Excel files, trying to to keep up with the old organization, in our opinion, are not feasible anymore. Because the times have changed, and therefore what we can do is is leverage a little bit the technological support to keep up with the skill transition, and in general with the the fastest changing that we are seeing in most of the markets nowadays, due to macroeconomic aspects, but also to the fact that technology has a huge impact on how we do things every day, both on let me say white collar jobs, but also blue collar as well, depending on where we see it.
Sure. Perfect. Now, thanks, Giacomo. And just coming to you, Audrey, from your experience, when you're looking at it from, the looking at the skills, the taxonomies, these things, and then the impact on strategic workforce planning. How do you see the combination of those two things, considering what the colleagues have just mentioned?
Yeah, just jump to what Giacomo just said about just to maintain skills, and how do we manage to to write to find the right skills at the right place, the right momentum. So it's often a question of companies that we discuss with our supporting is how to avoid talents to leave the company, let's say after 3 or 4 years. So how do we anticipate this, and how do we offer some career paths to people, to resources or to talents in the company? So this is the question and the challenges that the companies are facing now. So it's linked, of course, to the strategic workforce planning as well, but they have to answer questions of people, of employees. What's next for me in the company? What can I do next? Do I have professional career here, or do I have to go outside the company? And it's also linked with the if we consider the natural attritions that we will face or anticipate over the next, let's say, 10 years, and we see that we are going to face shortage of resources, or high shortage of resources. So, and we had a report in France end of last year mentioning that 1 million retirement are expected in manufacturing industry between now and 2030. So it's 1 in 3 employees. So people will and companies will face this shortage quickly, and in the same time they have difficulties to recruit. So how do we manage exactly what you said, Dominic and Giacomo? How do we manage this skills gap and the fact to offer some professional a future for all the employees?
And I think that career pathing piece is quite a key piece in the puzzle. I think a lot of organizations struggle with, they have their internal job boards, they have those aspects, but really for an employee to see their career path and how many steps it might take to go from one area, I want to become a director in a company. How many steps? What are the skills that I'm missing? What are the things, and how can I get those? And I think we'll probably touch upon that maybe a bit later on as well. So fantastic. Thank you. Thank you all for that. So should we pass on to the next question? How can AI support skills-based talent management, and where does human decision-making remain crucial? So Giacomo, I'm going to go over to you on this one, as this is clearly in the center of what Talentware does.
Yeah, sure. That's something we see almost every day. With we have this discussion with the human resources departments on stressing the fact that at the end we believe that AI-powered technologies or AI-powered platforms, in our case, mainly act as an enabler for the skills-based talent management processes. But at the end, the final decision making still stay in the hands of the human departments, of human beings, in terms of line managers, employees, and HR departments. What's important to mention here is that, and I think it's also funny, because if we look back a couple of years ago, in 2023, we were all scared about the fact that AI could replace, human beings in most of the jobs. Then I think in 2024 we started realizing that maybe it's not really AI, but people who can use AI better than than others can replace, the human beings. And now in 2025 we are still, rethinking about this, on how effectively will be the transition and the impact. I think what's real and what we are seeing in terms of actual use cases within companies is that those companies who decided to leverage AI and AI-powered technologies, are definitely gaining efficiency in terms of, manual processes, especially repetitive processes that are usually defocalizing the people within HR departments from the core activities and the most value-added activities that they could dedicate to. And therefore, I think that's a huge advantage in terms of productivity that companies can gain. But at the same time, again, if we look also at what the AI Act is saying, and the way it's taking place, in Europe in particular, we all know that at the end, the final decision in terms of, for example, an hiring process or a succession process or a promotion process within a company must remain, as a human decision-making process at the end. But the huge differentiator is, in my opinion, is that once you have a large amount of data gathered within a tool, for example, you can access and take much more, data-driven decision instead of just acting with your gut feeling. And this basically brings you, to better decision usually, and therefore, an improvement within the company in terms of, again, productivity, engagement, and competitiveness that the company who intelligently uses AI-powered technology can gain over competitors.
Interesting. Yeah, I think definitely some pertinent topics there, and I think one of the key elements, I think, overall is still having, as you said, the human at the center of everything that we're doing, because we're talking about human beings here and not just a machine that sits side by side. But from your perspective, Audrey, how do you see this, and particularly in your market in France today?
Well, I fully agree with Giacomo. I would say that a skills approach cannot rely exclusively to, let's say, a solution or an AI tool, but it is a strong enabler. And in terms of efficiency, we gain many months in the setting up of the project. So it's really important. So all the approach cannot rely only on the tool, but it's a strong enabler. So we have to do it in the right way, and we have to deal with it. And maybe one more thing is that a tool or a solution allows to set up something which is not too complex, because we often see companies that are setting up this approach or a skills approach with a huge amount of skills, let's say a list of, for example, of 40 skills and many things around that. So, and using a tool like Talentware, for example, enables us to be less complex in that way, and to have standardized approach and methodology, and to drive all the project in a simple way.
No, interesting. I think that's really pertinent. And I think it's the reducing complexity, I think, is key to organizations, because, as you say, organizations have done a shopping list of skills, and then how does that shopping list of skills then mirror against the actual job descriptions and what we have in the organization? So I think those are the things which are quite pertinent. Dominic, what's your point of view on here?
I mean, look, I fully agree with Giacomo and what Audrey have said, and I don't have much to add. I think it's undoubted that AI brings speed and scale to these processes, and it's been said by the three of you before. The final decision needs to remain human. That's what we see in practice. People don't like to be judged by an AI tool or a machine. They want to know why a decision has been taken in the way it has been taken. And in the end, Ollie, you said it nicely, it's about humans, and the personal fit is something that the AI tool most probably, despite all the personality testing we can do, cannot do to the full extent. So putting together a team which works together in an organization still requires that human touch. But I think in the end, it's not about replacing any human parts in the process. Giacomo, you said it nicely. It's about freeing up capacity to really then invest in these steps, which have to be made by human and human decision making.
Excellent. No, thank you, Dominic. Thanks for that. Great. Let's go on to the third question. So what are the first steps organizations should take to successfully implement a skill-based talent strategy? I come across to you, Audrey, to start with this one.
Yes. Yes, I would like to give you some key takeaways, and I would like to share five key factors of success, and maybe discuss with you all around this table. So first one is to review or update job mapping or skills taxonomy, because it's really important, and for me it's the basis of all what we can do after, and we cannot match the skills and build career paths without building a skills framework and having the job mapping which is accurate. So, but it is a huge work. It is a huge work, and a digital solution is a strong enabler to do this, because otherwise we spend months and weeks to do it. So it's very important, and to be supported by AI gives us the possibility to have proposals and then to adapt it and to customize to company. So it's really a strong enabler. So first, build your job mapping, job descriptions, and skills framework. Second key factor of success is to anticipate the future trends of jobs. So according to all transformation that companies will have to face, it's really important to implement a forward-looking approach and to anticipate what will happen in the next 2, 3, 4, 10 years, and not to build something which is stick to the situation now, but to anticipate the future. Third point, communication. Communication around that, and it's very important to communicate to all employees the objectives and the benefits of such a skills approach based on talent and skills. So what's in it for me? Which are the benefits for me if I use this? So all stakeholders in the company have to understand the benefits for them, employees, managers, HR, all the stakeholders. And they have to understand which are the career paths that that are offered to them. Where can I move? What can I do tomorrow? Which measures can I take? For example, in terms of training, reskilling, upskilling, that can the company offer me? And Dominique, you mentioned it before, set up the right governance around this approach. Huh? So who is the team? Who is the leader of that? Who is monitoring the results of all these talent strategy? And how do we make the framework evolving according to the situation and to the transformation of the company? And last but not least, how do we involve management in this approach and in the process? This is a very, very important thing. For me, it may be the most important thing to anticipate and to engage. This kind of approach is not an HR project. It is a company project. So how do we onboard all the stakeholders, including the manager around that? How do we make them understand that they have to promote the mobility, to come and to promote this talent circulation new culture? And we have many companies that are setting up this kind of project approach, and with the right tool, the right processes, with the job mapping and the skills framework. But this change approach is very important to make it work, I would say, in that way, to make it that we are going to a new culture for the next years. And it's quite important for me.
Interesting. So great wisdom there of your five your 5 key takeaways. I think fantastic for that. Dominic, what's do you have any additional comments to what Audrey just mentioned?
I fully agree. It's a very good list we will use in our future work, probably as a tick box or 5 tick boxes. But maybe just 2 thoughts. First of all, and Giacomo, you mentioned it before, we have seen over and over again organizations starting with an empty Excel file and say, let's write down the skills we have. And that's usually not going to work. So you have to start with an existing maybe an 80% version, which you can either create inside out by looking at all the job descriptions, mapping the jobs you have in an organization. But what we have recently done for an organization here in Switzerland is, because they were struggling, they didn't have that data available in the quality we would have needed. So we actually looked at all the jobs they have published in the past 10 years. And from that, we started basically outside in and went from all the jobs that were published on their website, on job platforms over the past decade. And from that, anticipated what the skills are that this organization now should have within their teams. And again, it was maybe a 70-80% match in the end, but it was a basis you could start with. And we didn't start from scratch with a white sheet of paper or a blank Excel file. I think that's one important part. And the other is, in our experience, it's important to start with a first very concrete business case. And that can even be your talent pool, that you don't start with the active employees, but then you start with the ones that maybe got a negative reply on a job posting. So you don't turn them down, but you rather add them into a talent pool, which is a sort of protected environment where you can start to build a skills pool that you can then look at for any future openings. And that's a very good success story that you can then use within the company to advertise for it and get the management support, as you rightly said, Audrey, because I think it's a very, very important point to make it work. Just two ideas.
No, I think you're absolutely right there. I think it then also lends itself to obviously the future skill topic that then comes later, once you've got that first test bed and then going towards future skills. But Giacomo, how do you see that from your own experiences, obviously working with customers today, and obviously looking at where they're going as well?
Yeah, no, I have to say fully aligned with both Audrey and Dominic, and especially starting with a pilot project or maybe a limited area. It's particularly useful to gain traction internally inside the company for this kind of projects, and also to find those champions that can share the voice within the company. So I think those are very pragmatical and useful example that were mentioned by the colleagues. But let me add that one thing that we see and be also controversial in this case is that you can also start with an Excel file, ideally, But the thing is that you will soon realize that by the time you have done the first mapping, of the skills, as Audrey was saying, that those skills will be already obsolete, just by that time. And so it becomes, a pure exercise that, maybe it can be perceived as cheaper, as leveraging the internal resources, but at the end you will have first of all a very static point of view compared to where the market is going. So you might lose again competitiveness against the competitors and against the real skills needed for those roles to stay up to the pace that is required, and also to allow your employees to be really employable. So employable for the company itself and for themselves as well. So it's a huge lever for engagement, I think, from what we are seeing every day. And finally, let me say another important point. It's that we often hear from our customers at the beginning that maybe they don't feel ready, to start, this implementation towards a skill-based, talent strategy, because they kind of feel that the culture is not there yet, in order to implement this change. But the reality is that we have seen, practically speaking, that sometimes technology can be a huge enabler for this. So sometimes really starting from a pilot, from a part of the population, and providing them, the tool also to part of the HR department as an experimentation, for this can be a huge push also from a cultural perspective, because you can then prove that this is bringing value in the day-to-day activities and also from a strategical perspective, and therefore together then with a more with a change management approach, you can kind of join the forces from the technological perspective and the human perspective to reach the final goal.
No, fantastic. I think you all touched on those points, and I think one of the key strategic elements that I see, and I had it also last week's going to a customer, is that the culture is always one of those topics that needs to change. So it's a mindset shift internally. I think somebody mentioned it earlier as well about having the manager, or making sure that the manager is open to allowing people to internally move within the organization. And it starts there. So I think leadership is always key. So I love all the key takeaways. We're on the half hour. So unfortunately, we haven't had time to get through to any of the questions, but we will answer them. So I definitely think that. But I think the 5 key takeaways, obviously, that you gave, Audrey, basically looking at reviewing the job skills, reviewing the job and the skills taxonomies, anticipating the future impacts, communicating to the employee population and making sure everybody understands what's going on. I think, and it's particularly the career paths, I think was one key element as well, which we all discussed. The right governance. And finally, the management, the key management topic of making sure that everybody's on board and everybody's driving from a stakeholder perspective. So I think this is a short session. I'm sure that we could go on for hours and hours and hours talking about this. But again, I'd like to thank you all for joining. I'd like to thank my panel of Audrey, Giacomo, and Dominic, and we look forward to obviously the future LinkedIn Lives that we'll be presenting to you all. So thank you all, and again, we'll answer your questions shortly on the comment section in LinkedIn. So take care, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.